back to Drew's Sick and Science Tricks. Today I have a special guest with me, Chemistry Kate. And today we're going to tell you about emulsions.
So what is an emulsion? Whether you know it or not, emulsions are all around us. An emulsion is a system consisting of two immiscible liquids, which are liquids that don't mix, such as oil and water, where one of them forms lots of tiny little droplets, which are emulsions, in the other liquid. A few examples of this are milk, salad dressing, lotions, mayonnaise, ice cream, and even dirty dishwater. Unfortunately, if there is nothing to stabilize the emulsions, they begin to separate immediately. In order to stabilize the emulsions, chemicals called surfactants or emulsifiers are added. Surfactants form aggregates, where the water-hating or hydrophobic tails form the inside of the aggregate, and the water-loving or hydrophilic heads are in contact with the water surrounding it. This means that the surfactants essentially surround the emulsion and make it more stable. As you can see in this energy diagram, the beginning reactants are more stable than the end product, the emulsion. This means that the system would rather be oil and water separated than oil and water in an emulsion. When the surfactant is added, the amount of energy needed to go back to the products is increased, so they become more stable. Some common everyday examples of surfactants are detergents, egg yolks, and even shampoo. Now it's time for our first experiment.
For this experiment, the items that we will need are vegetable oil, vinegar, an egg yolk, measuring spoons, and a measuring cup. So the first part of this experiment is separating the egg yolk from the egg white. So to do this, you need to crack the egg carefully and simply hold the yolk in the palm of your fingers. The egg white will separate. If you drop it, it's okay. Just pick it back up, move it around a few times, and place it into your measuring cup, like so. Be sure to wash your hands after handling the raw egg. If you don't, there is a chance you could get salmonella, so please make sure you wash your hands with soap and water immediately after handling the egg. The next step is to add 1 tablespoon of vinegar. The vinegar smells a little bit bad, so try not to inhale it too much. After the vinegar has been placed in with the egg, you can beat it either using a wire whisk or an electric beater. It doesn't need to be mixed for very long. After the egg and vinegar has been mixed, it's time to add the oil. It's very important to add the oil very, very slowly at the beginning, pretty much a drop every second, in order to make sure that the emulsion actually forms. Otherwise, it'll just form a very liquid mixture that won't actually form the mayonnaise. So, you start off with 1 tablespoon of oil, and you pour it in very, very slowly, like I said, a drop at a time, while you mix it with your either electric beater or wire whisk. Make sure that you add 5 tablespoons in this dropwise manner. This may take several minutes. Once all 5 tablespoons have been added in this manner, add another tablespoon of vinegar. After adding the tablespoon of vinegar, you need to continue adding the rest of the oil. A full cup of oil is needed, so you need to add about another 2/3 to 3/4 cup of oil in order to create a 1 full cup of mayonnaise. You don't need to do it tablespoon by tablespoon as we did before, but you still need to add it very slowly. While we've been filming this, we have not been using our electric mixer while we've been talking. If you decide to do this at home, you need to make sure that you're mixing this mixture for the entire time with your electric blender or your whisk. It may take several minutes, but in order to form the emulsion correctly, the beater must be going at all times. After you have added everything, your 1 cup of oil, your 2 tablespoons of vinegar, and beating the entire time you're mixing, you should get a mixture that looks very similar to store-bought mayonnaise. It should have the same consistency and about the same color.
So how does this experiment help explain emulsions? If only oil and vinegar were used, they would separate almost immediately, which is clearly not what mayonnaise does. However, we can add the egg yolk, which acts as a surfactant, at the beginning to make these small clusters, called micelles, and slowly add the oil. As long as the oil is added slowly enough, the micelles will not break and release the vinegar. The system now becomes the stabilized emulsions in oil. Okay, now that you've made an emulsion, you're ready for the next experiment.
And for the next experiment, we're going to need water, an empty pop bottle, vegetable oil, dish soap, and the optional food coloring. Now take the empty bottle and fill it about this high with water. Then you're going to take in the optional food coloring if you choose and add 2 drops. Now make sure you place the lid on tightly, as you don't want the water to spill out. You can shake it up. And now we're going to add the vegetable oil. Make sure to do this carefully as to not spill. Fill it to be about this high. Close both lids tightly. Now make sure the lid is tightly closed. Shake it up. See what happens? It separates almost immediately. Now take a bottle similar to the first, and we're going to add dish soap. And now shake it up.
So how does the soap, water, and oil experiment help us understand emulsions? In addition to showing how emulsions need energy to be formed, like how the water and oil needed to be shaken in order to mix, this experiment shows us the differences in stability. Without soap, the oil and water separate almost immediately. But when soap is added, the oil and water take much longer to separate, which means that they are more stable with the soap than without it. After a period of time, the oil and water will eventually separate, but it is much longer with the soap than without it.